The ability to choose is the greatest gift given to us from our Heavenly Father. We can choose to feel love, we can choose to feel peace, and we can choose the opposites. That's the beauty of agency. It's what makes us the happiest and what can bring the most pain. So, what are you choosing? Now, I thought I understood agency, but I keep hearing new things and interesting things that show me that I still have a lot to learn. Agency is not just making a choice between good and bad. As I've been learning more about agency, I think my favorite thing that I've learned is that I have the choice to believe whatever I want, meaning I can tell myself things that I choose to believe. And that includes how I choose to think about any given circumstance. I actually have a choice how I want to feel no matter what is happening. It isn't out of my control. The gift of agency is so much bigger than I ever gave it credit for. I recently found a talk given by Thomas S. Monson back in 2010. I'll leave the link to that article in the show notes. Now, he broke agency down into three categories. Number one, the right of choice. Number two, the responsibility of choice. And number three, the results of choice. Now, I thought these categories were very interesting. Even though our right of choice was a gift from God, it comes with responsibility and the natural results of the choices that we make. Now, to completely use this gift for the best outcomes in our life, we have to remember all three. Now, in that talk, he quoted David O. McKay, who said, quote, "Next to the bestowal of life itself, the right to direct that life is God's greatest gift to man," unquote. I think it's so amazing to think that everything else in your life can be stripped away from you, but the right to choose can never be taken away. Now, when it comes to the second category, responsibility, it reminds us that we cannot remain neutral. There is no middle ground. When you don't choose, you have made a choice. I am grateful for my belief that I can ask God to help me with my choices anytime I want and still choose if I'm going to go with what He directs me to do. I still have the choice, but I also feel a responsibility to choose well. Now, sometimes I may choose what feels easier. Sometimes I choose what is ultimately the best for me. But either way, I get to choose. Now, in the classic story of Alice in Wonderland, she comes to a crossroads of two paths that go in opposite directions. She asks the Cheshire Cat which way she should choose. And I love the response from the cat. He says, quote, "That depends on where you want to go. If you do not know where you want to go, it doesn't really matter which path you take." When we choose our path, we choose our destination. It does take a lot of courage sometimes to make the harder choice. But when you are focused on what you really want, which is why it's so important to be able to answer the question, what do you want? The choice does become easier. Now, the last category he shared was results of choice. Every choice has a consequence. Now, some consequences are bigger than others. For example, what you eat for lunch is a much smaller consequence than how you choose to speak to a friend. Try to think of some choices you've recently made and the resulting consequences. Thinking about the possible results in advance can really help you to make different choices. Now, I think you can find that when you take the opportunity to look back at choices you've made and the results. So when you begin to look forward, you can make better choices about how you want the results to happen. That's why consciously choosing how you want to show up in different situations before you're confronted with them, it can really make a big difference. Now, in Camp Connection, one of my favorite programs that I teach, one of the tools I teach about what you put in your first aid kit is looking forward. Now, looking forward is taking time each morning to look ahead to what's going to happen in your day and consciously choosing how you want to show up in each situation. Now, it has helped me on so many occasions to be more positive, more patient, and kinder when it's not necessarily easy. I've been able to look back on the choice I made in the morning of how I wanted to show up, and it helped me to show up for people better by reminding myself of what I'd already decided to do. Now, if you haven't taken Camp Connection yet and you feel like this could help you in your ability to improve your emotional health, you can register at hunkydory.com/camp. I'll put that link in the show notes too. Now, we have the ultimate say in our choices. No one can force us. Now, we all make incorrect choices sometimes, and sometimes we don't even know the extent that they were incorrect until we're able to look back and look at the results of the choices. That's actually part of Camp Connection too. That is why it's so hopeful to me that we get to do that. There's always a way to start again, to correct a bad choice. I was just watching one of my favorite movies of all time, Anne of Green Gables, and was reminded of a quote that I really love. Tomorrow is always fresh, with no mistakes in it. Doesn't that just give you so much hope? Hope that you can always start over again, and hope in the fact that you will probably make another incorrect choice. And it's totally normal. Sometimes that incorrect choice was to allow others to make choices for you. Life can get overwhelming, and you cope with that by letting others choose for you. I've done that until I learned some skills that helped me get stronger and was able to start again fresh and ready to speak up for what I wanted and needed. The ability to choose love has always been with you. But because we have agency to make choices, we don't always choose to follow that love. I have found that when I choose against love, I can find myself in uncomfortable situations. But here's something I've also learned. Those uncomfortable and usually hard situations have taught me to see things from a different perspective that ultimately has given me strength and helped me to become a version of myself that I didn't even know existed. Choosing love does that too, but it does it in different ways. I get to choose the way I look at situations. Do I try to see things from a lens of positivity or negativity? Why does negativity seem to be the more natural lens? At least it has been for me. That's probably not true with everyone, but it is something that I struggle with. I am trying to choose more positivity more often and become a more naturally positive person. I like who I am better when I choose to be positive, but it's going to take some practice. I do like how I show up for others when I'm in a positive place. I am more patient. I'm kinder. And I can see others' good intentions when I look at them with love. That's how I want them to see me. I want them to know who I truly am so that they'll be more patient with me when I'm not making good choices or not in a good place. So if I want them to do that for me, I must be willing to do that for them too. These aren't conscious choices sometimes. They can happen in a split second. And when things get crazy in your life, did you know that you have the ability to choose peace? You don't have to wait for it. You can choose it. When you are emotionally healthy, you can choose to look for the good in any situation. This happens more often when you have practiced taking a step back from situations and realize what information you're taking in that is true and what is just your interpretation of what they're saying. When you take the time to do this, you are more able to see the positive and take positive actions as you move forward. Only humans have the ability to assess a situation and decide what things mean, what you're going to let them mean. We are not at the mercy of our circumstances. Our agency allows us to choose what to do with the information we are taking in. Isn't that so cool? Now, when I was living life on high alert, high intensity all the time because my emotions were out of whack and I reacted without the ability to assess a situation, I felt like I had lost my ability to make choices. That is no way to live. And if you've listened to any of my earlier episodes, you know my story of how I was able to get back in control of living according to my priorities. Now, if you feel like you have no say in what is happening in your life or have lost the ability to make choices, this is a really critical time for you. The truth is, it's probably more of your perception of your situations instead of the actual facts of the situation. Can you see the difference? The way you're viewing it and the way it's actually happening? May I suggest a few things you can start doing today to get back in touch with your basic gift of being a human, and that's your gift of agency. First thing I suggest to anyone is to set aside a half an hour with a pen and a piece of paper and just start writing. Make sure you're in a place where you won't be interrupted. Just start writing. Write all the thoughts that come into your head. Don't hold anything back. Keep that pen moving no matter what. Yes, you may have to write, I don't know what to write here. Why am I doing this? What's going on? Why am I doing this? And that's totally okay. Just keep your pen moving. If you keep it moving, thoughts are going to start coming to you. Start writing those thoughts down. Don't edit yourself thinking that you don't want anyone to read what you're writing. You can shred these pages as soon as you're done. But be an observer of what is happening. You may or may not get anything of consequence that very first session, but keep trying it. You will start to see that your true self will show up. I know that sounds a little strange, but that true self inside you, the one that isn't blocked by everything going on, she's going to start showing up and talking to you through your writing. I've learned to really love and trust her. When you're writing your thoughts, it allows them to slow down so you can process them in a way that makes more sense than having them spin in your head. You can have an argument with yourself as you look at your thoughts from a different perspective. And the good thing about that argument is that you are going to win. Now, so many things happen. So many different things happen when you write. And that's what makes this worth doing. As you're doing this writing, you may see choices showing up that you've made in the past that you actually like, and some that you can decide are what you don't want anymore. This is good for you to know. Now, if you're like me, you may see that some things you thought you were forced to do and go along with were actually things that you want. When you look at them from a more positive place, they don't seem so out of your control anymore. It changed so much for me and the way I felt about my life. I recognized where I was really using my own agency. I felt more like myself than I had in a very long time. Now, if this exercise of journaling doesn't seem to bring you peace in your life, and you've tried it consistently for a month, a few times a week, then I'd like to offer my help. Sometimes we just need an outside perspective to help us see things that we can't see on our own. And I would love and be honored to be that person for you. You can sign up for a 30-minute consult with me, and we'll find at least one thing you can try that will help. I promise. I have proven principles that I can share with you that will help you to find peace that you are craving in your life. Go to hunkydory.com/consult to choose a time that works well for you. Now, I cannot wait to meet you and help you get back into your life as an emotionally healthy person that uses her agency, the greatest gift that you've been given. Thank you for joining me here today. And remember, I see you. I understand how hard you're trying because I've been there. And I'd like to help wherever I can. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you back here again next week.